Well, good morning, Kelowna, and it is Saturday, and it is spring, and it is the Garden Show, and Ken, Salvail, and I are here to help you with your gardening questions, maybe entertain you for a couple of hours, and what else, Ken? Oh, tips and plants of the week. How about that?
Yeah, you betcha. There's always tips and plants.
Okay, my tip of the week is this. This may not be technically correct, but this is what I like to see. If you're not sure what to prune off your fruit trees or kiwi vines, wait till you see the bloom buds show some color. Or at least, maybe not show color, but at least identifiable bloom buds.
Exactly.
Now you know where the bloom's coming, because that's always the concern when you're first starting to prune things. I've learned that with my kiwis. I pruned them incorrectly for 3 or 4 years in a row, and I wasn't getting much fruit. So I let them grow, and I realized, the fruit comes there, not there. Okay. So
yes, exactly.
So that's my tip of the week. And my plant of the week is rhubarb. Ken, our rhubarb is fat, beautiful. It's about 1.5 feet tall now.
Oh, it's looking good.
It's looking great.
It's looking delicious. There you go. All right, I also have a tip and a plant this week, and my tip of the week is that when you do have seeds that are germinating, always use a little fan of some sort to blow some fresh air onto those little seedlings. You know, it really helps to adapt them to the real world because there's not much still air that happens in the real world. Actually, once you get plants outside, the wind is blowing and plants are getting blasted around, and so the little guys really appreciate a little bit of air movement from time to time. All right, my plant of the week this week is Eutrema japonicum, which is the wasabi plant, or wasabi japonicum is a common name. And this is the wonderful plant that's used in the Japanese meals like sushi to flavor the lovely tasty morsels that we consume. And it's just not common. We usually get a different product. It's not actual wasabi. It's actually a sort of an artificial type of wasabi. And if you ever get the real wasabi, it knocks your socks off. It's a beautiful thing. And so, anyway, the plants are occasionally available, and that's my plant for this week. It's one of the toughest plants in the world to grow. So, of course, I'm trying to grow it, and we'll see how long we can keep it alive. That's my tips and plants for this week. Remember to check growercoach.com.
Way to go, Ken. Just back to my rhubarb. Rheum is the Latin for rhubarb. And there's all sorts of, there's decorative rhubarb, there's ornamental rhubarb, there's all sorts of rhubarbs. But your regular rhubarb, you know, one of the very first things that I learned about gardening was I remember my mom out in the rhubarb patch tearing off the rhubarb blossoms because she said that encourages more foliage, more rhubarb, because that's what you use. You don't use the blossoms. However, I've seen a couple of situations, I've got a picture of it in my computer, of rhubarb that was used as an ornament.
Yes.
And the bloom, just let the bloom go. It's gorgeous. I mean, it's white, bloom 4 feet tall, and it's a fabulous plant. Big leaves. Why not use it as an ornamental?
Yeah, and there are actually ornamental rhubarbs available. The Rheum palmatum varieties, which you do find in garden centers from time to time, and the really good one is Rheum palmatum atrosanguineum, which is the actual red-leafed one. It's got a lot of real red pigment, and what a cool plant that is. It's got quite a bit more jagged leaf than the regular edible one. So.
Dan Bruce had one of them.
Yeah. And we used to grow them when we used to have our nursery, and it was just a cool plant. Yep, very, very interesting. Big leaves, and the bloom was pink or often even a bit reddish, depending on, like we were growing them from seed, so there was genetic variability going on. So you would get some that were a little more red, some a little pink, some a little more whitish. So they were just variable.
Fabulous. Well, I fell into a very, very cool thing. I came across, I didn't come across, but I was given a whack orchid plants, maybe about 10 plants, something like that, 8 or 10 plants.
Wow, nice.
And they are totally different kind of plants. They're not regular, they're not regular
standard
orchids. These are different outside the box kind of orchids. And
nice.
I'm just going to do something here just while we're waiting, or we're not waiting for anything, but I'll tell you what, I'm going to give out the phone number, 250-862-2525 to get through to Ken and I today. And we will, answer your calls, your questions. And as you can tell, my mind is somewhere else, but that's okay. I do this all the time. Donna and I look at each other and say, "Where's your mind?" "No, honey." And I say, "Well, it's not quite here, but it's
somewhere
close,
in the vicinity.
It's close by. I'll find it.
It might be out in the workshop.
Yeah. We'll address what we got. We'll address the immediate situation rather than looking for something that I was looking for while I'm trying to talk.
Yeah. Try to keep it down to one or two topics.
Can't walk and chew gum at the same time, Ken.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Anyway, this is beautiful weather right now. It's a little chilly today.
-5 tonight or something. That's sort of normal, I think, for this time of year. But you do have to be careful. Anybody who's trying to push the limits might get zapped tonight. So if you're tuning in, that could have been one of our tips of the week, is to protect your plants for this evening, because you never know what's going to happen.
That's right. And I've got a friend that texted me yesterday and said she's got her pumpkins out. And I want to get back to her and say, way too early for pumpkins.
Yeah.
Period. Even if it's not going to freeze, it's way too early. They shiver in their,
you never know.
Boots.
You never know what it's going to do. Like the other night, they said it was going to be -1, and it was -4, I think. So, it makes a difference. But again, it's not always how cold it gets, but how long it gets cold, as we've mentioned before. And so the -5 tonight won't have really much effect on any irrigation systems or anything. If everything goes well, it'll just be a little blast, a little snap that happens late or early in the morning, tomorrow morning. And depending where you are, if it's close to the house, it probably won't have much effect at all. And if it's, if it's out in the open, or if you're in a little bit of a frost pocket, you might find it a little chilly. But it's still spring.
Yeah, but I'll tell you this, that when they say it's going to get to -4, I just dig my heels in and I go,
no,
it's -1 or even 0 at my house, because we're down by the lake.
Yeah.
And, really, I haven't seen any of that, anything close to -4 for the last, long while. And I monitor. I have an electronic indoor-outdoor thermometer with minimum maximum, and it's electronic. It's not one of the shakedown ones. It's a modern one. And I've got the outside sensor in the shade on this side of my greenhouse, so it's on the north side of the greenhouse.
Yeah.
And
they're within a couple degrees for sure.
Oh yeah, it's amazing how when they talk about temperatures online, on the radio, whatever. I never reach those temperatures, the coldness of those temperatures.
No, but in the community, it's generally the average, right? So where we are, whatever it would say at the Kelowna Airport, like where we have our geodesic dome, it is typically 2 degrees colder than whatever it is at the airport. And that's typical. So if the airport forecasted, or say they said it was -2, it would usually be -4 there. And whatever it says at the airport is pretty close to what it is at my house. Sometimes it's a degree cooler at my house, but somewhere in that range. It's just location. And that's what we've talked about before, how microclimates greatly affect your plants and your properties. And even if it's just on the south side of the house compared to the north side of the house, that makes a difference. And I mean, you'll see it with plants. Where you'll get plants that obviously, and tulips would be a good example. If they're in a sunny, warm location, they're up and blooming already. And where if they're in the shady, cool locations, they're still slow to come on. So, but again, obviously, depending on the variety. But it's just interesting. It's phenology really is sort of the reaction of plants to temperature and climate and that sort of thing. So. And how it relates to other plants, so you can actually use the timing of certain plants that bloom as key indicators for other species. So, like if forsythia is one of the plants that's used for a lot of different species, including crabgrass, the germination date for crabgrass, and also other insects that are hatching as well. So, yeah.
forsythia is in full bloom.
Yep.
In the city of Kelowna, down on the flat.
Yep.
But you go up to Gallagher's, go up there, and at least it was the other day, the difference between in bloom down here and not in bloom up there yet.
Yep.
Sometimes I have clients that I go and see up a little higher. There hasn't been a speck of snow down here for weeks. Mm-hmm. And you go up there, up to the level that they are, and there's snow on the ground still. So we live in an area that the climate, microclimates are prevalent here.
Yes.
So many little microclimates. I remember Joe Wilkinson that worked for us years ago. He's now in Australia. But Joe lived in Peachland.
Right.
And he was growing things like Aurelia fatsia, Fatsia japonica. I mean, that's considered a houseplant here. It does survive the winter in Vancouver. And he had this little microclimate in Peachland that he was able to grow some of these things.
The crepe myrtles seem to survive there quite well.
Yes, crepe myrtle.
You know, in Peachland areas. And so, there's areas here in the valley, like even where we are here, even maybe in Vernon, where these types of plants could survive. And I think there are actually, that's probably a bad example, because I think there are some crepe myrtles that are actually zone 4, zone 5. So there's a few varieties that are tougher than others.
Try one of those puppies.
Yeah, I don't know if they're available locally.
We've got to take a short break here. And we'll do that. We invite your calls, 250-862-2525. We've got one call waiting, and I appreciate your patience. But we'll be back with more AM 1150 Garden.
Alrighty, we are back. And it's a lovely Saturday, sort of. It's kind of chilly out there, actually. A little bit of rain coming down here and there, and I'm pretty sure we're just going to go straight to the phone lines. So we're going to, I think we have Laura on the line.
Laura is on the line. Good morning, Laura.
Morning.
Good morning.
How are you guys?
We're well.
Yeah, good.
Good.
Thanks.
Hey, I have some questions, or a question about potting soil. So I know that you can buy things like Miracle Grow type branding of potting soil that has fertilizer sort of added. But when you buy the bigger bales, like, that are in black plastic and stuff, do they have any fertilizer added, or do you need to supplement it with your own? I'm trying to, looking at cost savings. But
yeah. Some of these products do have actually fertilizer in them, but it's very, very minimal, and it's enough to get plants started. It's enough to get going until you're into the warmer climate, or say like into May or into late May. But once it starts getting hot out, especially because these are potting soil, so it's going to be plants in pots, and plants in pots have a higher requirement for nutrients than do plants in the soil.
Right.
So this little bit of nutrient that comes in the potting soil is just enough to kind of get you launched into the spring and starting new plants, that sort of thing. But once it warms up, you still have to go back to your regular fertilizing.
Right. So do you think that there's less in those big bale economy potting soils?
There's several varieties of those big bales. The Sunshine number 1 mix is your typical product that you use for bedding plants and planters and things.
It's actually a professional grade.
Yeah, it's a professional grade potting mix. It's what they would use, say, at the greenery, or any grower would use those. That, and it has a little bit of a charge of fertilizer to start. It also has a wetting agent in there, which the wetting agent allows it to get moist, because I'll tell you, try and moisten dry peat moss. That's pretty hard to do.
It's a challenge, yeah.
It's a challenge.
I was working with some potting soil, and I was thinking, as I'm adding making little batches of it, I felt like I was making dough.
It's exactly like that, isn't it? It's hygrophobic, they call it, and so that's where you throw the water into it and it beads up, and it's actually repelling. It doesn't want to get
exactly.
Yeah. In the old days, we used to mix and mix and mix and mix.
Yeah.
But with the wetting agents in there, that solves that problem. Mm-hmm. So it's a professional. As Ken said, it's a professional mix, and it's much more reasonable to buy the big bale. I buy a couple first thing in the spring, and I usually buy a couple as spring progresses for around the yard. And I reserve that for new plantings and new seedings and things like that because it's nice and clean. It's brand new. But I don't throw it out. I never throw it out. I've got a big bin in the backyard where I put all the old potting soil, and I use that. If I'm going to plant up a big planter, I'll use a lot of the old potting soil in that planter, and then just to freshen it up a little bit on the top with some fresh stuff. But it's not good to put seedlings and things into that because you could end up with some fungal problems,
some disease issues. Yeah.
Right. So I've got some little seedling tomatoes started, and so I'm going to be potting them up into something a little bit bigger for them to grow some more. And I was just wondering if I'm using this sort of less, advanced potting soil, if I should amend it with a little bit of organic fertilizer before I started using it.
Well, you can do that. I mean, kelp and those things are quite available. They work well in potting soils. Kelp and fish emulsion.
Right.
I don't know what's available out there now. Does Alaska fish still? Is that available?
I don't know if that's classified as organic.
I'm so old. Some of these products are gone.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I remember that. Yeah. Can I ask you just one more question?
Sure.
What's the minimum temperature for little tomato seedlings? I have a small greenhouse that I do have heat for, but I don't like to heat it in these temperatures, way up there. And so, like yesterday, I didn't put my tomatoes back outside into the greenhouse because it was just cold, and we're in a really, really windy site. So
I would definitely hold off for the next 2 days because it's going to be cold, so I keep them warm. Tomatoes don't like the cold. Less than 10 degrees Celsius is pushing it. And that's why, when they say, when do you put your tomatoes outside, it's usually after the 24th May long weekend. And even then, the nights are 7-8 degrees. So then, it's okay. But the earth is cold, and, you need to have warmth for tomatoes and peppers and eggplants. Those plants, they really love the heat.
Right. Well, that was my instinct, to keep them in the house. They couldn't go out and play.
Yeah, so absolute minimum, I would say about, 6 or 7 degrees, but it would be better to be 10.
Right.
Yeah.
Very good. Awesome.
Okay.
Well, let's hope it doesn't get too cold tonight.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, you never know.
Yeah. Thanks again.
You betcha.
Yeah,
depends on where you are is how cold it's going to get.
Yep.
Take care.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. 250-862-2525 to get through to Ken and I today. And I was just looking at the 14-day forecast here on my trusty little telephone. And, we got -4 tonight, they're saying, -3, and then -2, then -1. And then on Wednesday, April 14th, is +2, +3, +4, +1, +3, +2.
At night, that's
night.
pretty good.
I'm talking about the nighttime temperatures. And it's getting up 14, 16, 19 on April the 17th, 18. So, it's starting to smarten up, and I think this might be the last little real blast of whatever, but anything can happen up to the 24th of May. I remember
easily,
that back in the day. I remember it freezing on the 24th of May.
Oh, yeah. Well, we have lots of clients that we deal with, and we do annual plantings and all kinds of things. And there wasn't that long ago where we were waiting. It was the 5th of June, and we were just standing there staring at each other. We couldn't believe it was still freezing in areas at night. So we were going like, okay, well, what do we do? And then we just said, we just have to do it. We've run out of time. And so we did it anyway. We planted everything, and it was okay. But I think that was literally the last frost was like the 5th. And that was really bizarre, and it was late, but you just don't know when the weather's going to change. Anything could happen.
I think the way the spring is right now, the way the weather's feeling right now, I don't think we're going to have that kind of a year, but we definitely have to wait into May. I've got a friend that just contacted me about planting her pumpkins out. She put them out. She wonders whether she should bring in tonight. They shouldn't be out there in the first place. Vicky, if you're listening, Vicky, bring your pumpkins in the house, please, and keep them in there till at least into May.
Yep.
And further on, if the weather isn't cooperating, because they need nighttime. They want nighttime temperatures of 10,
and they also don't like cold temperature or the cold soil.
The
right?
soil is
so they're in the same classification as zucchinis and all those, even tomato plants. Yeah,
we're going to go to the phone lines, and Wilf is joining us. Good morning, Wilf.
Good morning.
Hey, Wilf.
He's there.
Across here at the snow falling across the lake now. But anyway. What fungicide would you suggest for brown rot for apricots and peaches?
Yeah. Wilf, unfortunately, there isn't, as far as I know.
Well,
Ken, you might be up on this, but as far as I know, Benamil's gone. The other the Fruit Plus that we used to use, that's gone.
Yeah, there's I don't know so much it is for homeowners, but you can contact spray companies, and they
still have some materials.
Yeah, they spray because that's I think a pink bud stage application. Right?
Yeah. Because I used to use copper solution at one time, but I was just wondering how that would be.
Well, copper probably wouldn't hurt the apricots at pink bud. But you can try it, Wilf, and let us know how you make out. But that has never been my recommendation.
And you have to avoid any sulfur-based.
Yeah, no sulfur.
Avoid sulfur-based, you say?
No sulfur on your apricots.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Okay, my other question is, I have 5 Haskap berries. Of course, they're in bloom now. Mm-hmm. Are they pollinated by the wind or by insects? Do you know?
They're more of an insect pollinator.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what insect can come out in this weather? They're going to have to wear their winter coats.
Well, I've seen lots of bees out there.
Yeah, they're kind of sluggish right now.
Yeah,
and those little mason bees are out early, but this weekend's not a good example because I think it's a bit cold. But this upcoming week, they should be fine.
Okay. I thank you very much.
You betcha, Wilf. I appreciate your call. Good to talk to you.
Then.
Yeah,
right,
good luck. Bye-bye.
Bye now. Now, young man, should we carry on or should we take a break? We're going to take a short break. We've got 2 folks waiting for us. We're going to come back and talk to, well, of course, we're going to talk to Dan Bruce. He's coming on, and others. So we'll be back with more AM 1150. We are back with you, and before we get to Dan Bruce, we're going to just talk to Helene. Good morning, Helene.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm wondering if... I heard a few weeks ago that you grew these wonderful tomato plants.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering if you're going to sell those plants.
I will have some. I've just got the seedlings started right now, so I will have some available. If you want to email me, Don@thegardenexpert.com.
Okay, and then you'll just let me know when they're ready.
Absolutely. I'll put you on the list.
Okay, great.
Thank you, dear.
Very much.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Okay, bye.
Thanks for calling. There you go.
And we're going to go now to Dan Bruce, who we've been anxiously awaiting for his next epistle. Good morning, Dan.
Good morning, Don and Ken.
Good morning.
Now, there's no man involved or woman involved this time. It's a plant, right?
It's a plant, yes.
Ooh.
And it's lucky I don't have one of them here because it's snowing.
What?
It's snowing at your place?
Yes.
Wow.
See what I'm saying? The climate, the microclimates in this area are amazing.
Well, the plant that I'm going to be talking about is commonly found around, but not in gardens here. It's found in grocery stores, the pineapple.
Oh, yes. The lowly pineapple.
Okay.
Well, not so lowly. Ananas comosus is its scientific name.
Mm-hmm.
And ananas, of course, is the native Taino Indian word for the plant. It was discovered on Columbus's second voyage to the Caribbean, where the Taino people were growing this fruit, and the Spaniards didn't know what it was, so they pointed and said, "What's that?" And the Taino looked down their noses at these ignorant people and said, "Ananas."
There you go. So that's where the name came from.
So the fruit was tasted and certainly appreciated. As far as I'm being able to find out, the first pineapple actually grown to fruiting stage in England was in 1670 or thereabouts, where Matthew Decker at Richmond, just outside of London, grew one and presented it with great ceremony to King Charles II, who knew a good thing when he saw it and almost certainly ate it.
Nice.
So between then and the late 19th century, the pineapple was a sort of a symbol of status and horticultural expertise in Britain. To grow the thing was regarded as a great triumph. And there were several named varieties in those days. Charlotte Rothschild, short-leaved Cayenne, and Black Jamaica were named varieties of pineapple that were cultivated. I grew up in Jamaica, and they were certainly all over the place. And I can remember sugarloaf being quite a large, tall, tapering thing with the top knot of leaves on top. Incidentally, the Latin commosus means tufted, referring to that tuft of leaves on the top of the fruit.
Top of the fruit, yeah.
Interesting.
There was another pineapple that grew on quite a tall stem. The fruit was only about the size of a grapefruit, but it was sweet like syrup. For some reason, the Jamaicans call them cowboys.
Well, so Dan, I grew, as you know, a pineapple in my greenhouse. I've had it for 3 years now, and it hasn't bloomed. It hasn't come into fruition. So what's my issue?
Your issue, Don, is that you've got a non-fruiting pineapple.
Really? Do you have a non-fruiting one? Is there such a thing?
No.
It's so healthy, Dan.
Obviously,
it's so healthy. Now, the other question I have, is it not a member of the bromeliad family?
It is a bromeliad.
Yeah.
And it is the only bromeliad that is cultivated, commercially. The pineapple has been taken around the world in the tropics, and of course, a lot of people now assume that it is a native of Hawaii,
right?
Because you can't really go to Hawaii and not get pineapple on you somewhere.
Yeah,
right. The Dole people.
The Dole people. And if you want to delve into history, you will find a rather devious and not so savory connection between the Dole pineapple empire and Douglas Lake Ranch.
Oh,
really?
Yes. It has all to do with the American invasion of Hawaii and the deposing of Queen Liliuokalani, the last Hawaiian queen.
Really? Interesting.
That is interesting. We just got a text text in from Eric, and he says the German word for pineapple is ananas.
Yes, he is absolutely right. A number of languages use the Taino word as the common name for the plant. The Spanish do not, rather ironically, they call it piña.
Okay.
And in English, pine apple originally referred to a pine cone that we see on the streets of Kelowna daily.
Right.
And in Roman times, the pine cone was a symbol of welcome. So that is why a number of gate posts in stately homes and places have pine apples, i.e. pine cones, on the top of them.
That's fascinating. Dan, you always come up with these fascinating stories, and pineapple is something everybody can relate to. As I say, I grew one, and it's doing so well. And I just basically cut the top of it. Donna got a pineapple, and she was making some kind of a pineapple dish. And I cut the top off, took it in the greenhouse, let it kind of get quite dry so that the pineapple didn't invite fungus. And then I just plunked it into a pot with some good potting soil. And by George, it grew, and it grew, and it grew, and it's now 2 feet wide and 2 feet tall at least. There's not a yellow leaf on it. It's so green. It's so beautiful. It's only in an 8-inch pot. So what's the deal? Why isn't it blooming?
Well, I don't have a straight-up answer to that, but I would suggest that it probably needs a larger root run in fairly rich soil.
Okay.
With considerable heat.
Okay. Maybe we'll be lucky this summer, because I'll put it into a larger pot, put it out on the patio in full sun, and just see what happens.
Yeah.
Donna will be very pleased, because she's told me that if this darn thing doesn't produce a pineapple soon, it's going to meet the green bin.
Well.
She's vicious.
Yeah, but only... she's not that vicious.
You've met her. So yeah.
I've met her
quite
and survived.
Anyway, Dan, we're going to have to leave it at that. That was very, very fascinating. And if you come up with another plant that everybody's familiar with, that we can talk about its history and where it came from, what it's all about.
Well,
it just amazes me, though, as it does all three of us, Ken and Dan and Don, all three of us, the amazing diversity and immensity of the plant kingdom is incredible. Because when somebody says pineapple, that's all they think about is the pineapple from Dole's that you buy at Safeway.
Yeah.
But there's just dozens and dozens and dozens of species, right?
Of species, and in the pineapple, the species of pineapple, there are actually, botanically speaking, there are 9 different species.
Wow. Plus hundreds of varieties, probably.
Plus the varieties, yes.
Yeah.
Well,
fascinating.
There are other people who have questions, and I will vacate the stage in their honor.
Okay, Dan. We love you, man. That's very good. That was very interesting. So we'll see you next week.
You will.
Okay, buddy.
Thanks, Dan. Take care.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Yeah, fascinating.
That was interesting. And on that note, we will invite your calls, 250-862-2525. We've got a short break here to come up. That brings us up to the 9 o'clock news. But we got a whole hour after that of answering your gardening questions. We appreciate your calls because that's what makes the show fly. We will be back with more AM 1150 Garden Show. Well, we are back with you. It's a beautiful Saturday morning, except there's always an exception, the rule, and today it's chilly. And tonight, folks, if anyone out there have some plants outside, like, I put my jacaranda out for the last few nights. I've put my onions out for the last few nights, which they would probably be okay today, but I've already killed an entire crop of onions this year. I don't want to kill another one, so they're going back in the greenhouse.
Yep.
And certainly I don't have any tropicals out. You don't have to worry about anything like your hellebores or even my banana, if I've uncovered it and everything, but that kind of frost that we get tonight's not going to hurt it.
No. Won't hurt any regular outdoor shrubbery and stuff or cold crops, you know.
But I tell you what, it could hurt, and this happens periodically, and there's nothing you can do about it because they're too big. The magnolias that are just starting to show a little bit of pink. The white ones are out already, and I'll bet you in some areas they're going to be brown tomorrow.
They might get zapped. Yeah, well, I guess we're going to have to wait and see.
Yeah.
Because it's surprising how they often will survive. Mine are still in their little furry coats, so I think they'll be okay. But mine often, the variety I have is Magnolia globosa, and it's one that is typically freezes where I live. Whenever we get that minus 20 cold snap, the flowers freeze, and so they freeze right inside the little buds. And so they still come out, and they always look a little ratched, like kind of brown and burnt when they open up. So when we get a real mild winter, this was a very mild winter, other than that one little glitch we had in February. Yep. So we'll have to wait and see. Never know. You just never know.
Yeah, you just never know in this business, but that's why when I was in the prairies at a Schleppe family reunion years ago, I was talking to one of the hosts of the thing. It was one of the brother-in-laws of one of the Schleppes, and he was hosting it on his farm, right? Redding, his name was. Anyway, he was a fascinating character. He talked about he can look back. He was in his, at the time he was in his 50s, 60s or something. But he not only remembers each year how much crop they took off, what the weather was like, how much rain they had when he was alive and doing the job, but it was his dad that ran it back in the 30s and 40s. And this gentleman knew. You say, what was the crop like in 1936? He'd tell you exactly how many bushels they got off the acreage.
Wow.
What the rain was like. What he had every year was that. And we're similar in a way, Ken, because you've got some years back that you remember as well.
Oh yeah.
Like I remember
as a farmer, anybody growing plants, you tend to remember.
You do, because it's all weather related.
Yeah.
In the greenhouse business, in the garden center business, I used to refer to the sunshine like a light switch. The parking lot was full if the sun was out. If it was cold and windy and kind of a little bit of snow and rain and whatever, the light switch went off. The parking lot was pretty much virtually empty, other than the hardcore people that wanted to come in.
Yeah.
But
there's a tip right there, I guess, is with this chilly weekend, this might be an opportunity for people to get out and not have the crowds that they would normally have.
Right. Garden centers won't be as busy this weekend, probably. So get out there and get your plants, but don't be putting them outside. Definitely, there are some plants that you can harden off and keep outside. We talked about cilantro. We talked about
all
onions,
the cold crops.
All the cold crops,
love
the
cold,
lettuce and that sort of thing. I've decided, rather than put my lettuce outside, I've kept it in the greenhouse, Ken. And you know what? Just with these longer days and more light, that lettuce is fattening up and stiffening up nicely. It's I'm cropping it all the time. I'm clipping it all the time. It's a fabulous crop of lettuce I'm having this year in the greenhouse. And outside, though, this little blip that we have coming up here is not going to be terribly problematic.
It's not affecting, how many plants do we have now? Like, I don't know, just a huge, actually, I just put out a video just showing some of the seedlings that we have in right now, and they're already starting to push up and do their thing, and a little frost at night does not bother them at all. Check YouTube.
Yeah, you betcha. Check YouTube, Ken. We're going to promote that YouTube, because it's a fascinating thing you got going on there, and we'd like to promote that. As soon as we talk to Miles, after that we're going to talk about Ken's blog website on YouTube, his YouTube channel. Good morning, Miles. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Don. You know who this is.
Yeah, I know. I've golfed with you.
And we got Gene.
I don't know if I call my game golf, but I golfed with you playing golf, and I was tagging along.
And we got Gene on the other side.
Hey,
right on. How are you doing, Gene?
Very well, thanks.
That's nice to hear your voice.
Yeah.
Don, we took out a very large old lilac bush, and I want to put a rhododendron in the same place. Now, we're of the opinion that the lilac has probably sucked all the nutrition out of the soil. Would you say that would be so?
Well, lilacs and rhododendrons are at one end of the spectrum, either end of the spectrum as far as soil desires. They like the rhododendron wants a peaty, organic, acidity. The lilac likes our heavier soils. They thrive in the Okanagan with our chalky soils. Am I not correct there, Ken?
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
So you want to amend the soil to accommodate your rhododendron, and that's simply just adding lots of peat moss and work that in well, maybe a little sand, and you want to make sure that the pH is low. And you do that by using some sulfur granules in there, but be careful how much you use. You don't have to use too much.
So peat moss and sulfur granules.
Yeah, a little bit of sulfur and peat moss and
a little bit of shade, hopefully.
And shade, you're right.
It's shaded from the afternoon extreme heat.
Yeah.
The rhododendrons, they survive okay, but they prefer a little bit of shade from at least part of the day.
Where it is, it's not going to get much shade.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you might want to choose one of the Helsinki ones. They seem to do a little better in the sun.
This is one of the small rhododendrons, the ones that it's only going to grow to about 4 feet.
Uh-huh. Well, like Ken said, they are a little bit touchy in our hot sun. So, however, I've seen the rule broken so many times. There's one out in Rutland, a huge rhododendron, full sun, doing well. So, give it a shot, but make sure you amend that soil.
Perfect.
Now, I just want to, before you go, because I'm excited to have both of you on. We've got two folks that are listening. We've got two folks that are on with names that are synonymous with Kelowna. Like the Ritchie family had Ritchie's Dry Goods downtown on Bernard Avenue. And Jean, my parents and your parents were very close friends, and
they were, and
we loved them very much. Your mom would come to the Bridge Club, Bridge meeting, and the circle, the United Church Circle, I remember all that stuff, right? And then Miles Treadgold, your name again is huge in Kelowna, so that's wonderful to have you both on. Treadgold Sporting Goods, Treadgold's Paints, all the different, and of course Mayor Treadgold as well. So that's really fabulous to have you both come on, and we appreciate it.
We enjoy your show, Don. And I just have to say, your dad sang at our wedding.
Oh,
there you go.
Fabulous.
Well, yeah. And Miles, maybe we'll get out the sticks together again before we leave the golfing world.
Right. I'd enjoy that.
Let's do it. Okay. Take care.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for the advice, Don.
You betcha.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Ken.
Yeah. Thanks for calling.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
There we go. Well, it's always nice
so
to have
nice,
that sort of thing come on. And two big names married each other. That was pretty something. Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, we're gonna close it down pretty quick here for the first half of the show, but we got a whole blistering second hour of show. And Ken and I always love being here every Saturday morning. It's been a long journey for us, really. The show started in 1983. 1,791 shows ago.
Yeah.
1,791 Saturday mornings ago, the show started in 1983.
So we're going to do something special on the 1800th show or what?
Oh, we should do something special. Maybe
we'll wear a hat or something. Wear something, a party hat or something.
Yeah, that's right.
Good idea.
There's on this station alone, there's been 1,118 Saturday mornings that we've been here. So
yeah,
it's pleasurable to be here every Saturday morning. And I want to say a big shout out to my Auntie Kay. Kay McLeod, another big name in the Okanagan and in Kelowna. Don McLeod Insurance was a very strong company in town that sold insurance, life insurance, car insurance, auto insurance, house insurance. And Auntie Kay is pushing 100. Now, I say that with all honor and love. Auntie Kay, if you are listening, you are the person who represents that Henderson family that moved to Kelowna in 1936, 37, somewhere in there, and came in on the Sycamoose. And Grandpa Henderson, Lee Henderson, was a dental mechanic. And they had children. They had Lee Jr., who moved to Vancouver. They had Harold Henderson, who was a prominent Kelowna dentist in town. And his son, Bruce, was a prominent Kelowna dentist as well. Kay McLeod, Kay Henderson, was a school teacher and a wonderful, wonderful person. And my mother, who
was also a wonderful person.
Yeah. And Kay, you remind me so much of my mom, and I love you dearly. So we're going to just say that. Hello to Auntie Kay. I think she's got online now and been able to listen to the AM 1150 Garden Show. So her daughter, Kathy, helped her with that. And on that note, we're going to take a short break and for the news and whatnot, and we'll be back with more AM 1150 Garden. You betcha. Either one will get your answer to you. And we have breaking news. Not breaking news, but, it's always like breaking news so everybody listens.
Mm-hmm.
The Okanagan Xeriscape Association is still planning to hold its annual Xeriscape plant sale, but in quite a different form than most years. Now, we've heard that before.
Yep. It's happening regularly these days.
Didn't have a birthday last year. I'm not going to have a birthday this year either. So I'm staying 69 forever, Ken.
There you go.
So due to the restrictions on gatherings to reduce the risk of transmission of the COVID-19 virus, instead of a plant sale in the Oxa Demonstration Garden or Gordon Drive in Kelowna, this year's event will be online with scheduled plant pickups throughout the day at the greenhouse, May 8th. Many of the plants were propagated by volunteers of the UnH2O garden, either by division or by potting up seedlings, but others have been carefully selected by Xeriscape specialists and planted as either plugs or seeds to grow in the greenhouse, ready for you to plant this spring. A list of the plants available with the size of the plant and prices will go up on the OXA, that's the Okanagan Xeriscape Association website, www.okanaganxeriscape.org. And Xeriscape is not spelt with a Z, it's spelt with an X, Xeriscape, Okanagan Xeriscape. On Earth Day, April 22nd, for you to browse and pick the ones you most want to grow in your garden. You do that online. Orders will be limited to members only, with the plant list available on the members-only side of the website. But in the second week, beginning April 30th, it will be open up to members and non-members for the remaining stock. And a link will be posted on the front of the website. Payment must be made at the time of purchase by credit card. Details of the growing habits, water and light needs, blooming information, and other features will be available on the plant database on OXA's website. And where possible, a photo of the plant will be included in the plant list for the sale. Remember that for success, even drought-tolerant plants need to be watered for the first year after transplanting to help them get established. After that, water can be reduced to a minimal amount, and that amount does vary. So don't think that you're buying a Xeriscape-type plant, plunk it in the ground, see you later. No, it'll see you later, all right. It'll see you on its way to the green bin.
A lot later, yeah.
It's the green bin for it.
Yes, unless it's a cactus,
you gotta acclimatize them to the low water. Now that's really cool. So go to the website okanaganxeriscape.org, and it'll tell you just what to give you a selection of plants that are available. And so that's exciting. That's exciting news. Now they talked about the memberships. The members are kind of got first dibs, right? Pretty easy to become a member. It's not like you're not joining the RCMP or something. This is you want to be, you're an avid plant person and you want to join the Okanagan Xeriscape. They're not going to say, oh no, you don't have to pass a test or anything. I don't think so.
No,
I don't think so. I think
nope.
If you to renew or order a new 2019. Where are you, Don? 2021 membership. 1921, we're back there. 2021 membership in OXA. Go to the website, OkanaganZeriscape.org. An individual membership is still just $25 per person, $20 for students. Well, we're all students, so we should all get in on that. Well, not really. And $40 for couples in the same household.
Yeah.
Easy peasy. Get a membership. Now you get in on that early sale. You're not excluded. You can go to the members only side of the thing. Individual membership and membership in the OXA has lots of perks, including discounts at most local nurseries when you show your membership card, discounts on classes and access to the member area on the website, and opportunity to learn from master gardeners and xeriscape experts while volunteering with like-minded people at our demonstration garden. It also includes the membership in Mediterranean Gardening International. Ooh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Which includes 8 organizations from around the world. They include OXA, the California Horticultural Society, the Mediterranean Gardening France, and similar groups in South Africa, Portugal, and the UK, Western Australia, and Chile. In more normal times, workshops, presentations, garden tours, and conventions are held to which members would be welcome. Even now, some of those presentations are available electronically. So there you go. OXA, great organization. We've had folks on talking about their organization. They're promoting low water use plants. And just to clarify it, Ken, we get this all the time. I'm sure you do. I get it. I want to xeriscape my yard, so I don't have to work at it, and I don't have to feed it. I don't have to do anything. It's just xeriscape. Well, get the concrete truck and put a slab down, because that's called xeriscaping. Xeriscaping just is gardening, like gardening with a capital G, with less water.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Simple as that. And there really isn't such a thing as xeriscape. No. There's no such thing. Yeah, it's just a misnomer. Yeah,
green concrete. That's what I say.
Yeah, exactly. And there are legal limits on how much hard surface you can have on your property too, because they want to keep the surfaces permeable, so that when it does rain or when there is moisture added, it doesn't even run off your property. It soaks directly in. So there are bylaws that say you can't just be putting down hard surfaces everywhere. Which,
I was joking, Ken. I wasn't telling people to do that.
It's surprising how many people are unaware of that. That you're only allowed to cover a certain percentage of your property, and that includes buildings and pavement and all that stuff.
Does it include pavers?
Yes, it does. Well, and regular pavers are hard and impermeable, but you can buy permeable pavers and have those installed, and that's a different setup. It's much, much more expensive, and I think regular pavers are expensive to begin with to install, but to add this degree of drainage where literally you could stand there with a hose on the permeable pavers and the water just goes straight through them. Like, it's amazing. It goes right into the ground.
Interesting, almost like pumice.
It's a system. We've actually been through the training of how to install it, but it's not commonly done because the cost is extremely expensive. I'm sure it's over $50 or $60 a square foot. So you'd have to be, you'd have to really want it.
Well, I mentioned earlier in the show that I have become the great adoptive father of about 10 of these orchid plants.
Yeah, unusual orchids.
Very unusual. I'm going to show you a picture at the break, Ken, and see what you think.
Do you have a list? Do you have the botanical names and all that?
A couple of them have some faded names on them that I'm going to try and decipher.
Yeah, I'm sure we could figure it out.
And then there was one that I took the tag out last night, and I'm trying to figure out what it is. I go back, and I couldn't remember where I took the tag out of.
Oh.
I know.
Well, you can look it up, but you could look up that name and see which one it is. Yeah. So, yeah.
But sometimes the foliage doesn't tell. Like, I have these oncidium orchids in my greenhouse, 2 of them. And they are just fabulous. But I bought them from Brian Mitter when they were in bloom. And they are so green and so healthy and so wonderful. Do you think I can make those Guys,
you got to read every single orchid is completely unique, so you have to follow the instructions exactly. And it's usually nighttime temperatures that trigger them, and so you need to have the right conditions, but you need to follow those temperature regimes.
Well, I think if they want cool nighttime temperature, I'll have to take them out of the greenhouse on a non-frosty night. Put them outside.
Well, when they say
night.
Cool, it's usually 55 degrees Fahrenheit, or about 12 degrees Celsius at night.
Yeah, my greenhouse gets down to about 15 at night.
Yeah, so you're pretty close. But it depends on the orchid. You have to read about them. You have to get it. Because I did the exact same thing. I had a dendrobium, I think, and I had it for quite a while, and it wasn't doing anything, and I just thought, you know what, I'm going to read up on it. So I read up about it, and it said, this is the nighttime temperature it has to receive for X number of nights. So I took it, and I put it in a room where there wasn't much heat, and I closed the door and put it on the windowsill, and sure enough, it took about 4 weeks, and away it came. Beautiful bud came up.
I can't wait.
Those ones with the pseudobulbs, I think you have one.
I have, Is that mine's an oncidium, though.
Oh, yours.
It's got that little fluffy yellowish. Every oncidium has some yellow in the flower. In the flower. And they were in full bloom when I got them from Brian Minter, and they looked beautiful in my greenhouse. They still look beautiful, but they have no bloom. So I did do a little bit of research on them, but it was a little unclear exactly what to do. So maybe I should contact the Orchid Society, the local Orchid Society, right? And these guys and gals are pretty
start by reading
up to date on what to do.
Yes, absolutely. And then it's kind of difficult, I think, when you have a whole room full of different species, and then you're trying to manage the temperatures. But typically what happens with a lot of these tropical varieties is that through the summer months it's usually raining, and the temperatures are hot and humid, and then when the winter months come, it dries up a bit, and then it cools off at night. And so the daytime temperatures are typically that 70 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit, and then at night they drop down to that 60 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's often what it is that once it hits that 15 degrees Celsius at night, that's often a sweet spot that really will trigger them to start to produce flowers.
Just one more thought on that. One of the things that when people say, what's your favorite flower? It's quite often the question, what's your favorite flower? Well, they're all fabulous, but if you want a favorite family of flowers, I would say the orchid group would be one of mine because of the fact of this diversity. I mean, there's orchids in every continent other than Antarctica. There's native, indigenous orchids on every continent except for Antarctica.
Yeah, and orchids on the evolutionary scale are the highest of any plant. So,
Yeah, it's amazing. So on that note, we're going to invite your calls, 250-862-2525 to get through to Ken and I today, and we'll be back with more AM 1150 Garden. We are back, and joining us is our old friend Louie. How you doing, Louie?
Too bad. Thank you very much. Listen, you boys. And the thing is, last year I was out of commission. I had knee replacement, and my wife took the garden over. It all looked good, great. Whatever came up. Didn't came up. The little birds got him, eh? So, okay. She said, here, I would like to plant a row of corns. Okay, I go to the bucket field. One baggie, $5. I open it up. There were 15 kernels in there, and the kernel, they are shriveled. I mean, I tell you, they're shriveled. They must have came off the Tutankhamen pyramid, you know? When they found Tutankhamen, they had a bag for there. It was unreal. Now, okay, she planted the 15 kernels. 2 came up. The one had a 6-inch cob on it. The other one, forget it, nothing. So what's going on here? Why is that so shriveled? I mean, we grew corn in our old country, hundreds kilos, you know, and there was no shriveled. No shriveled. They were all healthy. Same like now, I have about 4 or 5 year old popcorn in a drawer somewhere, and they're all the same like when I bought it.
Yeah.
they're not shriveled. They must pick it green and then they let them dry out.
That could be, Louis. It could be just a bad crop. I know that most corn seed that I buy over the years, I don't anymore, but back in the day we used to plant acres of corn. An acre of corn on the property on Ethel Street, and the corn was not shriveled, but I've seen some like that. So she planted it outdoors?
Yeah.
And you're sure the birds didn't get some of them?
No birds. No.
Some did germinate, though. A couple?
Two of them came up when they're 15, okay?
Yeah.
One was 4 feet and the other one was about 3'6". The 4 foot had a little cob on it, like 6-inch cob.
Do you remember?
Not much.
That wasn't very successful, Louis.
No.
Now, welcome to gardening, I guess. What variety was it? Do you remember?
No, I can't remember. It's from Mackenzie or something.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's old seed, maybe. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, like old seed, from Tutankhamun's, what's his name? Yeah.
Exactly.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny.
It is unreal. No, another thing. Zucchini. You try to get some zucchini seeds. It is very hard to come by. You try to get some radishes, these white long one, the icicles or whatever they call it. Hard to come by. You don't find any.
Yep.
What's wrong here? And then let's say squash, spaghetti squash.
Now, are you blaming Ken and I for this or what?
I don't know. Yeah, you too.
We buy a lot of seed, that's for sure.
You didn't put the order in. We should have it here in the Okanagan, the seeds, I mean, I can plant all kind of flowers, They got flowers, they're loaded with flower seeds, but it is very hard to chew on it,
Yeah.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right. Except if they're nasturtiums.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's just a supply issue. There's some things are readily available, some things are just not available. It's like almost everything right now. All building materials, just about everything. There's some shortages,
No, okay, I'm not blow mine top, because
we don't mind, Louis. You can phone us and vent. You can vent.
Absolutely.
But that's strange with the corn, that is all shriveled.
Yeah. Well, try it again this year. See what happens. Ken, would you recommend soaking the corn overnight before you?
Well, I think you certainly could do that. Just to make sure it's good and wet. And hydrated. But I can recall having some seeds that were so shriveled, I thought, no way they're ever going to grow. And sure enough, I did soak them for just about an hour, even just to get them started, get some moisture in. And then, again, you do the same viability test, right? Is even though they're shriveled, if you put them in water and you stir them into the water, any ones that sink to the bottom should be good and should be viable. But if they're not, they will float, and that will be the garbage seed. So that's the test, right?
Well, we'll try that.
Yep.
Yeah. And another thing, order some real nice weather, because this is all bullshit here. Overnight, 2-3 degrees minus,
I know. Now you're blaming us for the weather.
Yeah, well, you told me to take my pants off and sit on the earth when they just...
Yeah, I know. Well, have you tried that,
I
Louis?
tried that. I froze right just there,
Just got stuck to the dirt. Okay. Thanks.
No good.
Thank you, buddy.
All the best, you guys.
You too, buddy. Take care.
Thanks, Louis. Take care.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye. Yeah.
That's funny stuff. Okay.
Yeah, I think we're talking a different month, though, for that test.
You don't be going out there in April.
Yeah.
You're talking like the 15th, 20th of May. You want to just do that test. 250-862-2525 to get through to us today. We are... just having a great time today, and it's always fun to hear from Louis. And now we had someone call in, and he said he had 10 acres a year of corn. Remember planting with my dad, and almost with all the kernels would be shriveled. Now we would soak the fields pretty good after planting. So that's somebody's advice there. 250-862-2525 to get through to us. I think what we're going to do is take that break. There's nobody on the lines. If we can line them up on the telephone, because we're here to answer your gardening questions. We'll take that break early and then come back with more AM 1150 Gardening. Okay, yeah, we are just really having a good time today. There's so much diversity in our garden show today, right from talking about pineapples to talking xeriscape to talking.
Orchids.
I mean, that's what gardening is about. There's so much to talk about. We can't stop talking.
Indoor and outdoor.
Yeah, we had a gal call in, and she's requesting we do a show on container gardening for all the people living in townhouses, apartments, and balconies. Well, I'm sure that you've got a YouTube thing going on in container gardening at some point.
Well, at some point we will for sure. Yeah, we're just continuously adding videos to our grower coach on YouTube, and there's always. I actually have an archive of videos that I'm working on, actually just editing them and getting them up. Because they were relatively well produced, years ago. Yep. But I just have to spend the time, and
it takes time.
It takes time, yeah.
Ken, though, in a nutshell, it is if I had a balcony and that's all I had to work with, I would have it flooded with plants. Now, the key thing is you got to have some light. The people that live right on the north side of a building have a less opportunity to diversify in their plant material than somebody living, say, on the morning side or even on the afternoon side that get a half a day of sun, or the south side, which you get your full day of sun. You're going to have to do some protection for your plants there. But it's easier to protect from the sun than it is to create sun. On the north side.
And that's a plant selection thing.
Yep.
And I was in that situation, and it actually reminds me, I think it wasn't too long after I'd moved to Kelowna, and I had an apartment that was literally inside of a giant tree. It was on the north side of the building, and I was up on the third floor, and it was right inside of a tree. It was really quite beautiful because the birds used to come in there, but man, it was dark. And so that's when I started to have to really think about what types of plants I could grow. Number one was I realized I had to use tropical plants, because a lot of the tropical plants would be really good with really low light conditions, and out on a patio like that would be sort of an ideal situation. But I have to watch for temperature. So then there's only that little window where we can grow plants outside, that are tropical. It really would start around the end of May, probably the very end of May, all the way through until about mid-September. And even at that point, you have to start watching the night temperatures. But big leaves, for low light, that's one thing that really is a sort of it's just things that go together. Think of the tropical forest floors and all the big leaf plants that grow down there. And those leaves are big because they're designed to capture light.
And even here, hostas generally have larger leaves.
Yeah, but there are always exceptions to the rule, and I think it's just a research thing for sure. But with containers, once you start using, modern potting soils, it really takes a lot of the challenge out. But it's always, I find, a watering regime that is the thing that really dials in the ability to grow plants in pots, is how often you water. So the hotter and the sunnier the conditions, the more often you have to water. Wintertime, you don't water nearly as much, and you just have to stick your finger in the soil and feel it. And if it feels moist, don't water it. But, as soon as it starts to get dry, then you have to water it. And then when you water well. We've talked about that before. So those are the basic tips. The food supply is one of the last things on the list. Like, you don't have to worry about that.
Plant's not going to die from lack of food.
No.
It may turn a little color, may not perform as much as it should, but it will not die. It'll sure die from overwatering, though.
Oh, yeah. Overwatering or absolute, starvation of watering, depending on the species. But like the cactus plants, they certainly don't want a lot of water, and when you water them well, and water them mostly in the summertime, and really not hardly at all through the winter.
A lot of the succulents,
yeah. So it's one thing, we all have to learn a little bit more about the types of plants, and then the pots.
That's right. It's plant choices, absolutely. The other thing is there's different kinds of shade. You can be on the north side of a building and have a wide open space in front of you, or you could be on the north side of the building and have a big elm tree right there. You call that dead shade.
That's what I had, yeah.
And then there's dappled shade, and then there's, whatever, all different degrees of shadiness.
You know what I had? I had those big leafed begonias, the upright ones, and that's what I used to have on my dead shade balcony in the summertime, and they were quite pretty. They would bloom and whatnot, but really they had those speckled leaves, the spotted leaves, like angel wing type, but the big leafed ones. No, it was pretty successful.
Yep.
But it is a challenge. And then on the other hand, one of the biggest issues is moving plants from inside to outside. And that little movement from having a plant indoors where the leaves have never been exposed to bright light before, and then all of a sudden you put them right out in full sun. Well, just like us, if we're inside all winter and then we go out and spend the day in the sun, we're burnt to a crisp, right? And it's the same with plants. They have to adapt to it gradually. So sometimes it's only 10 minutes at a time for the first week, and then the second week it can be, up to maybe an hour on the second week. But then the third week you can finally start to leave them longer. So it's a gradual process of adapting plants.
You've often talked, Ken, about the structure of the cellular structure of a leaf and how it's when it's out in the full sun, it's like an iris. It closes down, and in the shadier times or in the house, they open up, and so that's where your shock comes in, isn't it?
Yeah, well, and just the ultimate that plants, in the leaves they have these palisade parenchyma, they're called, and they're these specialized cells that live right on the just below the epidermis, or the top of the leaf, and they're right there, right close, and they're ready to gather light. And of course the leaf thickness is a factor. So the epidermis itself, if it's born into low light, well, sometimes that epidermis is thin and it's allowing extra light through, so it hits the chlorophyll and the plant can do its thing. But if that leaf is born into really intensive bright sun, well, it would actually probably grow quite a bit thicker and it wouldn't let as much light through. But plants have a built-in sunscreen. There's a chemical within plants that they use that is it's almost like a type of hormone, and it's developed and produced based on the light conditions. And then so they can produce more of that chemical when they get into sunnier locations. But it's not a light switch that turns on and off. It's something that gradually builds up, so it takes
That's why
time.
that gradual hardening off or whatever of your plant to the light and to the sun is very important.
And that's why if you're really careful like that and just sort of, if you could, 5 minutes the first day, 10 minutes the second day, and just gradually increasing it by a couple minutes every day, over a month you'd be out in full sun, but you wouldn't see any change in the leaf.
Yep.
It would just adapt.
Yeah, but also picking and choosing your day. Like, for instance, these overcast days.
Yeah, it's
in the
better.
daytime to bring some of your plants out and adjusting to the coolness, adjusting to the sun.
Yeah.
So, but every plant is different. Some plants don't want any of this coolness at all. They say, I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
Then others, like my jacaranda, which lives in Australia and is a deciduous plant in Australia, and in southern Australia actually gets a little bit of frost, can stand me putting it outside at night and bringing it in the day, putting it out in the daytime, bringing it at night, and then anytime it says it's not going to freeze, I leave it out all night. It's getting kind of used to it, right? Now, you don't want to do that with tomatoes, peppers, and
there's lots of plants that you can't do that with, but there's lots of plants, like a lot of our vegetable crops that we call cool crops, which is a huge amount, including all of your cabbages, the whole cabbage family, and everything from radishes to kale to even all your onion families and all the spinach families. It's just huge. Peas and just beets and all kinds of things. Carrots are still a cool crop. And that just means that they'll grow and freeze at night. They don't care. That's normal for them. So, those are the types of conditions that any plant that it's normal to, they can exist in those conditions. But plants where it's not normal, there's not a chance. Like you're not gonna adapt like one of these orchids we're talking about, one of the tropical orchids. If it ever got just a hint of frost, it would be done. It would be it, right? So knowing the plant, knowing the name of the plant, you can research it, you can find out where it came from, and then you can definitely put it in the right conditions so it'll survive.
We're going to talk to Diane. Good morning, Diane.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
We're well, thanks.
Good, thanks.
Good. I hope this wasn't covered already. I have two questions. One is this a good time to put some trap potatoes in your garden for wireworm?
Probably, because wireworms are pretty hardy and they're waiting for you to plant your corn and your potatoes and your peas and things, waiting to just jump on them. So those wireworm traps would be ideally put out right now, I think.
Okay.
Yep.
And my other question is leeks. I've never grown them before. I picked up some starts from the greenery. Is it okay to transplant them out?
Absolutely.
Or not yet?
Those can go out right now, Diane. Just don't take them in the boat.
Okay.
I learned that the hard way.
Take them out in the boat, take a leak out in the boat, and you've got a leaky boat.
All right. Thanks so much, you guys.
You're welcome. Thanks for
Good
the call,
luck.
Diane.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You betcha. We've got Steve joining us. Morning, Steve.
Yeah, good morning. I phone once in a while. Good morning, Don and Ken.
Yeah. Hey, Steve.
Remember, Don, I was at your place and I brought you some of those zucchini squash, the round ones.
The little round ones, yes.
Did you see them?
I haven't sown them, but I did give some seed away. I just didn't have the room last year, but I'm going to try some this year.
Have you still got some?
I've still got some seed, yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if you're going to see them.
Well, I'm going to try. I just don't have a lot of room, Steve, in my yard. So
I know.
I'm going to give some to my daughter this year and see if she can get a spot for them. Because they do need a little bit of room, and I'm tight for space.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that. I appreciate the thought.
Yeah, you gave me a couple of plants, flower plants, and my wife been treating them. They're doing good.
Oh, good.
I got problem always with potatoes. I guess my soil is not right.
Well, it could be a variety thing. What goes on with your potatoes, Steve?
Oh, they're kind of a hard skin on them, you know. I had some that were really good, but most of them, they're not that great, I guess.
Quite often, you got to pick and choose the variety that will do well in your conditions. And if you had some that were doing very, very well, then you want to make note of what they were and try those again.
Well, I had some. I bought some at down on Dogwood here. I bought some Yukon Gold.
Yes.
And I put those in. I did that one year really good. And I had one of them was a pound.
Oh,
wow!
They were just huge.
Pretty good sized potato.
It's a whopper.
But they were, most of them were big. There wasn't many small ones. So I guess I'm going to try to get some Yukon Gold.
Well, Yukon Gold is a good variety, a very popular variety.
Yeah.
I bought a bag from Buckerfields this year. It was a mixture. I had Warba, Yukon Gold, and Kennebec. A mixture.
I bought Kennebec. They were huge also, the potatoes themselves. But they were more, they're a little bit of yellow flesh. They're more white flesh. Yeah, they were pretty good last year. But last year, that's the only ones I could buy. I tried everywhere, and there was
short supply last year.
Oh, very short.
Well, get out there and get them early this year, Steve.
Yeah.
And
I'm on a thing today this year. I got most of my seeds already.
Good for you. Well, Steve, we're going to have to move on, but we always appreciate your call.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yep. Thanks, Steve.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
And before the break, we're going to call on Eric to join us. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning, guys. How's it going today?
We're well.
Good, thanks.
Awesome. So I'm the German guy that said ananas for the pineapple.
Oh, there you go.
Perfect. Good one.
Yeah. Anyways, just curious about you mentioned about all the pansies that are growing on the boulevards.
The pansies, little violas.
Is that one plant or something, or there's a whole bunch of them?
Well, just the pansies, you're seeing them right now blooming?
No, I'm just saying that's what they are then.
Well, violas, usually they're often violas, but it just depends. Yeah, but they're all related. Pansies are violas, right?
I've heard that there's one person that takes care of those.
Yeah, well, it could be. With pansies, the thing that I find we miss out on is that we can actually plant them in the fall. like in September, and they'll survive right through till almost Christmas and continue to bloom, and then they'll just kind of go dormant through the winter, and then all of a sudden in the spring they just explode into bloom, and they just do fabulous, and that's what they call winter pansies, and they're really, really great. And I wish we would do more of them here in the Kelowna area.
I thought maybe it was you two that mentioned that one guy. He does all of it. Like he won't tell you what kind it is or something.
It's probably the same guy. Yeah, we can't.
Could be. Yeah, he's the greenhouse guy in the city. On those petunias. Yeah, he's got a.
That's what it's
a trade. It's a trade secret. It's a trade secret. He won't give up his.
Figured so.
Yeah, and of course he propagates those now himself.
Wow.
So he doesn't buy them in. He probably carries the parent plant over the winter in the greenhouse and. Now, I'm not encouraging anybody to do this for sure.
But it's just interesting. Like you look at it, man, it's a big ball.
Oh yeah, they are.
Yep.
No, I can't do that. So I just grow my little few flowers I have, and maybe some garden stuff, and that's it.
Yep. Well, it's always fun to try, and any gardening stuff is always exciting, I find. Yep. But getting some little cuttings to grow is always great.
Always good. Good. Nice talking to you.
Yeah, thanks
for calling. Good to talk to you, Eric. We appreciate the call.
Yep.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Take care. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
And there we go. We're going to have to take that short break, the last one of the day. So we'll do that. Invite your calls, 250-862-2525, and we'll be back with more AM 1150 Garden. Now, it wouldn't be a Saturday morning unless we had a chat with Addie. Good morning, Addie. How are you doing?
Good morning, guys. I'm doing just fine. I'm not happy about the weather because I can't go outside. But however, I've had a travesty in my house.
Oh dear!
But one of my little cactus plants was knocked over and totally knocked out of the pot, and I transplanted it back into the pot. About 3 weeks ago, this happened. But now, from the bottom, it's turning black. Should I take it out again and just plant it in deeper in a bigger pot?
This is a cactus?
Yeah.
What type of cactus? A desert cactus?
Oh, God, who knows what kind of cactus? I don't know. Somebody gave it to me, and I just decided.
Is it a globular cactus, or is it lots of prickles?
No, it's a long kind of cactus.
So maybe it's a euphorbia. But they're all dry, loving, and black is a sign of rotting.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't have been affected. Like, even though they do get bumped out of their pots from time to time because they tend to be top-heavy a little bit, they'll often you just plunk them back in. And at this time of year, anytime in March, April, and May, they're typically rooting really fast. So any of these real succulent, dry-loving plants root quickly at this time of year. So, hard to say. But if it's black, it's probably a disease of some sort.
Yeah. Doesn't sound good.
I'm just wondering whether it was black before it fell out or whether it started to go black.
It might have been.
Because I plucked it back into its pot, but I don't think that I've been watering it too much because I have about 7 or 8 other different type varieties of cactus plants, and they're doing okay. I water them once a month in the winter and then twice a month in the summer. So, but I haven't fertilized any of them at all. But I'm wondering about this one.
Yeah.
Do you think if I took it out of that pot, put it in a bigger pot, and put it right down where to cover the black, that would help?
I wouldn't do that because, if it is what Ken's suggesting it might be, and that is Rhizoctonia or Pythium, a fungus of some sort, then burying it's just going to say, oh, am I ever lucky? I'm buried now and wet and damp. And
it'll start to go crazy.
So you don't want the
faster.
fungus to be happy. So what you want to do is send Ken or I or both of us a picture of it, a nice, clear, close-up picture, first of all, and also a picture of the whole thing so we can identify the cactus and maybe perhaps give you some advice that way because there's so many variables here. It could be a fungus. It could be the natural. I've got one euphorbia that's quite black on the base, right close to the base, and it's normal for it. It's the way it goes.
Oh,
so, yeah.
Maybe so. Well,
so we got to find out what you have and what's going on, and then maybe we can answer your question. And just so text us or email us, and we'll help you with that.
That would be great. Now, my other question is, I found some trumpet plant seeds. Not the Bromantia, but the case it's called Datura.
Datura, yeah.
Anyway, I found some seeds. Should I be putting them in the ground now, or are they supposed to be in the ground in the winter?
You could put them in the ground now. just remember that they are spread eagles. They like to move around. They want to be the only plant in your yard. So,
we had them in our other house, and that's what happened. But however, they pull
they're
out
beautiful
easily.
plants, and you can weed them out. But I remember, and I've told this story a few times. We planted a datura, a white angel trumpet flower, beautiful plant. I've got pictures of it. It was just so pleasurable, and I let it. Went to seed, and when I ripped it out in the fall, I shook all the seed all over that flower bed. And put it in the green bin.
Uh-oh.
Do you know, Addie, for 6 years we were pulling those plants out. They formed what they call a seed bank in there. Some of them produced the following year. Some of them germinated 2 years later. Some of them germinated 3, and up to 6 years before they finally stopped germinating.
Oh, so that's okay, because I don't know how old these seeds are, so I'm just going to... What did you say about if the seeds are good, they'll float to the top if you put them in water?
No, they sink. Yeah, the ones that sink are good. So that's how that's a quick viability test. Especially for larger seeds, it's really easy to do that as you're planting. You can just throw them into a glass of water, give it a good stir, so they get the air bubbles off of them. And then the ones that sink are good. The ones that float, you just skim them off and discard them.
So it's okay to plant them now, and they will bloom this summer.
Yeah, they should be. Yeah, they're pretty tough, and they kind of like starting cool, like it is right now. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's one thing to do today then. Super. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a wonderful weekend.
And hi to Bill. Eddie. How you doing? Okay.
Good. How are you guys?
Excellent, Bill. Yeah,
hey,
I'm
Bill.
Glad you're up and about and doing your thing. You're going to do some golfing this year.
Back to work on last October.
Right on.
Perfect.
And you're going to get golfing this year.
I am.
Maybe we'll hit a couple of balls together.
But I'll be out next week.
You bet. Oh, there you go.
There you go.
I'm just too busy right now, but later on, let's get together.
Yeah,
and
please.
you can come by and do some putting at my house too. Just practice up.
Sure.
Yep. Okay. Take care.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Yeah, there we go. One of our favorite callers been calling in since day one here. I tell you, we're all getting up in years together. There you go. Well, we don't have time for any more calls today, pretty much, but we want to mention the Xeriscape thing. We want to mention your YouTube channel, Ken.
Yep.
And what else do we want to mention?
Well, the weather tonight, it's going to be cold. So,
Take a little bit of caution.
Plants that need protection. Some plants do, and some plants don't. But it's always good to know which is which. And it's sometimes a little tricky, but most outdoor plants, they're fine. Even irrigation systems, a little cold snap like this. Irrigation has been turned on a lot of properties. Remember that's normal, that irrigation companies have to start early to get them turned on, tested, and set up and ready to go. And it's not needed. The water's generally not needed, so they're just switched to the off position until it warms up, usually around the beginning of May, and then you flick it to run, and it's good to go.
You betcha.
So, yeah.
Ken, the other thing I want to mention here quickly is the trip to the Chelsea Flower Show and the Floriade in
2022.
Amsterdam. 2022, a year from now, a little over a year from now, we're going to be flying out of here. There's limited seating, so you want to phone Marlin Travel, ask for Gail. She's the one that's putting this all together for us, and it's going to be fabulous. So Marlin Travel, ask for Gail. This is the trip to Chelsea Flower Show in London and the Floriade Flower Show in Amsterdam, which only happens, by the way, once every 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
On that note, Ken, I think we better say goodbye here quickly and do the tips and plants of the week.
You betcha.
My tip of the week is, if you're not sure what to prune off your fruit tree or kiwi vine, wait till you see a little bit of bloom bud coming on so you know where the fruit is going to be. Then at least you know where it will be, and you'll be able to avoid those areas and cut back to that. And it gives you an idea of what to do the following year as well.
Good tip.
Plant of the week is rhubarb, or rheum, which is the common rhubarb that you have. A lot of people say it's the Canadian red or whatever, but there's lots of different varieties out there.
Mm-hmm. All right, I also have a tip and a plant, and tip of the week is that I'm sorry. Oh, yes. I just about forgot my tip. My tip of the week is is that when you are germinating your seeds and you get these small little plants up, try to put a little fan there where you get a little bit of air movement, because the seeds they're not used to living in still conditions. They like to have the air moving around. That's the way to do it. So I use a little fan on your seedlings. Keeps them happy and healthy. Also, my plant of the week this week was the wasabi plant, which is very cool. And they are coming available from time to time in the garden centers, and you can give them a try. They like it cool and wet. They live literally in the creeks in the mountains. And so it's an interesting plant and something that's really fun and worthwhile growing. So there you go. Wasabi plant, that's my tips and plants for this week. Remember to check growercoach.com.
Fabulous, Ken. And we have our Shigo moment, as we do every week. It's Dr. Alex Shigo, father of modern arboriculture. He's talking about compartmentalization today. Compartmentalization is the tree's defense process where boundaries form that resist spread of infections and that defend the liquid transport, energy storage, and mechanical support systems of the tree. It's so interesting.
Brilliant.
I am in love with that, and so are you, Ken. Everybody that loves trees thinks of that because they don't heal like we do. They compartmentalize the wound and grow over it, so that's what creates the hollow trunk.
Yes.
We will be back next week with more AM 1150 Garden Show.